don't know, should I introduce you or should we just dive back into what we were saying and I'll do it
We
in
could.
the,
I'm Damon
hmm?
Cowx. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
This is Eat Your Peas very first, I'm not going to call it an interview. It's just a chat with a mentor. Damon is one of our rigging mentors for the month of June.
Hey guys.
Yes, say hi. All right, cool. So we were talking a little bit about freelancing and rigging, and I just thought this would be such a great thing to just, as I do this with my mentors every month, as a way to organize what you're going to talk about and how do we make that available to the public. This would be a really fun way to um, introduce you to the internet before you actually get introduced to the Eat Your Peas community. And so one of the big questions that I was asking, and we don't need to backtrack, but I was asking you, like, what are the things that you think about most when you think about your opportunities with freelancing and rigging? Because it is a niche job. It's not really the one that's the most common. As we said, rigging is rigging, compositing, designs. We're all kind of support actors for animators who tend to be rock stars. And
Yeah,
I'm using my words, but those were actually also your words.
yeah, the same
So
sentiment.
wonderful. Yeah. And so the next question that I was asking you was like, what do you think the benefits are of freelancing versus working in a studio? And you started to go on a tangent and it was wonderful. So that's where we are now. What do you think the benefits are for
I think
working in a
benefits of
studio over
freelancing is that
freelancing?
there's always a capability of work. Like you're picking up where the main team is having a deadline or a crunch or whatever they need. So you're able to meet in the middle and kind of just go with the flow of what's already established. And people like that. People like if you're asking for more work. People like if you're like on top of it and you're able to help them pursue their deadlines. So I think it's a really cool opportunity for you to branch out to different studios, learn how different people approach different tactics, different tips, different tricks that people have throughout their experience, and being able to bounce around between different shows even it gives you the capability to learn more for your career and just carry that throughout. So I think the more exposure you have to switching studios, some people say they like to be more loyal to one studio and
Hmm.
just kind of stay the same, but I kind of feel it gets stagnant after a while. Like you're not learning as much as you could be learning if you're switching around and doing those types of things, right? So I think it's, and also by freelancing, you get to go abroad as well. So you can connect with people around the world and then they make connections and you make more connections and stuff. And it kind of just, it all makes you more reputable and credible as a brand, like you promoting yourself. It's all about connections and meeting new people where they're at, right? I think
100%.
it's really cool.
How often do you work abroad?
There's been a couple instances where I've worked Australia, Central America, those types of things. LA sometimes, but getting to know those people, and if you ever travel to those destinations, you have somebody that you can connect with, right?
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So then, if those are the benefits,
Mm.
what would you say are the detriments? What are the disadvantages of working
Some of
freelance?
the
And
detriments, they can be the way people are organizing their systems. You know that it's kind of sketchy, it's kind of shady, and you kind of have to play around their rules a little bit because you generally are jumping in the middle of a deadline where things are already flowing and doing that type of thing. But I think it's good to kind of crunch your brain and maneuver around those types of things, even if a rig is kind of spotty, even if the art style is not what you're looking after, or you're not, it's not your favorite type of art style or what have you. So I think sometimes it can be difficult to get into the flow, especially when you have a very set pattern of what you're used to, and jumping into something that's kind of already half cooked makes things difficult. But it's a good opportunity for you to expand your knowledge and expertise.
And funny enough, I think that's how we worked together on Vindicators
That's
was
exactly
we
how it worked.
were half cooked. We were half cooked and we needed help. And
Exactly.
you graciously walked on board. That is the one thing that I do remember about working with you is like I don't really remember working with you, which means the work was good.
It was good enough.
If that makes sense. Yeah, it was fine. Like I don't remember. I'm sure I gave you notes at some point, but I don't remember. Like I don't think the notes were ever something that it was like it stopped the workflow. Like that's the hardest part when you are a supervisor and you're working with people externally. It's
Yeah,
like the more that workflow stops, the more interactions. It's a weird catch 22 because you don't really think that that's going to be the compliment, but
yeah,
that's kind of the way that the workflow is, that's the compliment. Like if your
yeah.
work just goes through that pipeline and it doesn't, you don't want to be like, I don't want to say like you're not forgotten because I knew that we worked together, but like if you don't have those detailed memories, that's a good
Yeah.
sign. It's just a
If you
good
do your
sign.
job
So
well, if you do your job
fine.
well, it should seem like nobody, it wasn't done at all, right? It just kind of everything goes
Yeah,
along the flow.
that's the pipeline methodology.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so right now we've got you've got your you know you get your experience, you get to what's the word that I'm looking for, it's like you're compounding knowledge at a faster rate is really what freelancing does. So some people that want to go through that period of growth and that learning, freelancing is really the best way to like give yourself that boot camp while getting paid for it and while being in control of, your
That's what I
schedule, your
found
time.
early in my career. I mean, I noticed is every time I switched studios, I was learning new things and new tricks and all these types of things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
early
same.
on, to gain as much experience as possible in a shorter amount of time of my career, if I kept doing that and I didn't burn out on the way through, but if I kept the same schedule throughout my career, I'd be exponentially more secure in my thoughts. And just by having two jobs at the same time and kind of pushing yourself through, it was kind of just a no-brainer for me to be like, yeah, this is the way I should be expanding and opening my horizons and getting better and better at my craft, right?
Hmm. Um, are those two full-time jobs at once? Is that,
Yeah, you manage it. Some weeks you go 40 hours freelance, some weeks you go 60 hours freelance, some weeks you go 20 hours freelance. I mean, that's part of the
yeah.
flexibility of having the schedule. And if you can still maintain your regular job and do the freelance on the side, then you get to pick and choose how many hours you're working, and you just be honest with your supervisors and say, this is where I'm at. Like,
You must have really good time management skills.
I don't know. I have no idea. I just do it. I
Sometimes
mean,
that's doing it.
I
Sometimes that's
do.
good.
I do
Okay,
create
so I
grid
wanted,
for myself, and I kind of organize like each day that I work, and it calculates everything. But that's just how I do it. Keeps me in case anything gets funky. You always can backtrack and refer to what your notes say and how many hours you worked and whatnot.
mhm.
That's just my time management.
Hey, if you're tracking it, that's good. That's really good. Honestly, that's really you're obviously doing something really well. Because again, that's it's hard to maintain. Oh, I don't know what that was. That sounds like a big crash. Everything okay? I like, I like want to check. Hang on, I'm gonna stop recording,
Good,
and
no worries.
I'm just gonna do double check. Hey,
This
Okay.
conference will
and
now be
and Mabel
recorded.
just I can get her. Mabel, can you come here? Look, look, come here, come. Say hi. No, she just laid down.
You tried.
You can see her.
Hello, hello.
Right? Yeah, little baby. Okay. All right. So I wanted to try to figure out one more point. Which, or maybe we don't even need it. No, yes, no, let's do it. I know. What are some major tricks that you've learned as a freelancing rigger? Like, would you say is like, what would be your favorite trick that you ever learned? And let's go from there.
Favorite trick I ever learned. Ooh.
or surprise? Like,
Um,
sometimes knowledge is a surprise. So, like the greatest surprise that you've ever encountered.
I mean, certainly in the very beginning, um, knowing the shortcuts for the software was definitely big, and then being able to create your own shortcuts for things that you're constantly doing all the time. That was a huge jump in my productivity, I noticed, and
Hmm.
that came from just somebody else pointing out, these types of things. And somebody provided me very graciously with the shortcuts as like a little thing to print out, as opposed to having to go through and look through all the different things.
Hmm.
So I, I took that. Anybody that was a newcomer in animation, I would always hand out and be like, "Hey, here's your own little timetable or your own little shortcut sheet," just because it helped me
Hmm.
so much. Different build strategies, like if you're cloning pegs or something like that, like how to properly flip things. It just saves you so much work on if the show dependent needs it. Um, not having to do the exact same work twice on the arm or the leg or whatever you're doing, faces, even that type of thing. It just saves you so much time. Um,
Hmm. My favorite. That's my favorite implementation of the Harmony software.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cloning is
Yeah.
a big one. I loved cloning. Yeah, and I mean, even with like compositing work and stuff, using certain nodes to kind of control how the image looks at the end, or just being able to alter something for a little bit so it gets more of a texture or artistic style or that type of thing. Knowing different things to have in your tool bag when you're trying to build something like that that's a little bit unique, a little bit diverse, a little bit something different. It's always good to have those types of things. Little band-aids. You got to have band-aids every once in a while to just be like, this isn't working. Here's a thing that can help it get past, whatever. So yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. The greatest shortcut that ever surprised me. I thought that I had like when you draw your limbs and you do the circles for your joints, I thought that I had it pretty figured out to like bare bones where I could just draw the circles, connect them with two lines, and I would delete the middle chunks.
Yep.
And I'd be left with like the four pieces that I could then like manipulate through all the layers.
Hmm.
And then some kid just did the circles and then just grabbed the one point of the circle and crossed it over.
Hmm.
And then when you delete the far side of the circle so that it basically made like an awkward like shape. Once you heal the shape and you delete the circles, it just became like a perfect shape. And it was like half the work that I never could have
Yep.
imagined getting that work done even faster.
Yeah,
And then that kid who'd used the software for like 3 days, I was like,
exactly. Those are the
excuse me,
types
can
of
you do
things.
that one more time? Can you just show me what you just did?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
I've
But
never
that's like
done
the
that.
idea. Meeting new people with new approaches on how they use the software, you always learn something. Like there's always people always use the software and they rearrange it their own and they have their screens their own way. So being able to take advantage of, witnessing somebody else do something and be like, hey, that thing right there, how did you do that? Like I think it's important to have even more connections throughout your career and be open minded to those things and not set in your ways.
Hmm. 100% agree. Even though I'm set in my ways, I agree.
We all have our thing. We all have our
Okay, well, I think that's good, and I think that that's enough. I mean, we're gonna have you back, and you'll be able to talk a little bit more on these topics, and we'll probably be able to bring in some real world examples, maybe from your experience or my experience, or maybe we can find a way to bring in some experience from the Discord channel.
wonderful.
Um, and yeah, we look forward to diving into these things with you deeper. Yeah.
Cool. I'm into it.
All right. All
Thanks,
right.
Lindsay.
Thanks. I'm going to thanks.
Do the thing.